Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. We're going to talk about the comic book industry, the manga industry, and how it looks like Marvel is finally starting to catch on that American comic books are dying. That market, that direct market, is pretty much done, and it looks like they're looking to manga maybe to be the next step for Marvel Comics. Very interesting development here. I have to give a hat tip to Yellow Flash, who did a video on it earlier today. I went out and found a little more information on it. It totally makes sense, especially given who's working at Marvel right now and what their backgrounds are. And this is actually something Marvel has tried before, and I don't know how successful it was. But I think Geeky and I have been talking a lot about this lately, manga versus comics, and I believe we had talked a little bit about this before too, Marvel coming to Shonen Jump. This makes sense, and if you've been watching our videos, you'll see that manga is in a much better place right now than American comics are, and we're having a manga and anime renaissance. It's time to party like it's 2008 all over again, and that's kind of what I think Marvel's going to do. They're going to go where the money is, and it's not in the American comic book shops anymore. They've pretty much run that into the ground. Congratulations, Marvel. So before we get into the video, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants here on Clownfish TV. We do talk about comics, we talk about Disney, talk about Star Wars, the MCU, movies, anime. We talk a lot about anime. Whatever interests us that day, as the pop culture landscape sort of changes and shifts, and the pop culture wars are going on, and all that jazz. We give our hot takes on that. If you think that's worth your time, please give us a sub. We hit 57,000 subs this week. We're hoping for 100,000 by the end of the year. Don't know if it's possible, but it would be appreciated, so thank you so much for your support. So, this version of the story coming from Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump Plus will feature new manga with Marvel characters starting today. Well, that was actually 2 days ago, so they're already doing this. Manga and Marvel fans are in for a treat, as today some new projects are dropping on Shonen Jump Plus to feature Marvel characters. I'm pretty excited to see what actually happens in these stories. Unfortunately, they all appear to be in Japanese. Give it time. They have the Shonen Jump app, which we're actually really big fans of here at Clownfish TV. It's like $1.99 a month for pretty much all you can read manga. It is digital, but it gives me a good reason to bust out my iPad to read a lot of the manga. And they have a lot of really good stuff on there. So in addition, there's even a small manga about the editors from Shonen Jump Plus meeting with Marvel Comics. Here's the slate. Secret Reverse, featuring Iron Man and Spider-Man. We're not going to see that in the movies anytime soon. A gag reel with the Avengers, Interview with Heroes, the Avengers, Samurai featuring Deadpool, Halloween Avengers featuring the Avengers, Ant-Man Plus with Ant-Man. That makes sense. They actually have an Ant-Man ride overseas now. They did build an Ant-Man ride in one of the Asian Disney parks. Secret Reverse Part 2. Secret Reverse Part 2, it's Iron Man, Spider-Man. So, this is not the first time that Marvel has tried this. They did the Marvel Mangaverse in the early 2000s. And again, this was peak manga time, I guess, in the book market. I would say the early to mid 2000s manga was huge. Manga sort of heralded the second coming, I guess, of graphic novels. I think manga can be tied directly to all the graphic novels being picked up by Scholastic and First Second Books and all these other publishers that popped up that did a lot of kids books, because publishers saw that kids were reading manga. They were buying these really thick books, for $10 or whatever, hundreds of pages, and reading comics that way. Not going to the comic shop so much, but they were picking up the books at Borders, which went out of business. Tokyo Pop exploded, and there was all kinds of manga. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it American. It looks like, the Marvel Mangaverse was more American. Interestingly enough, Ben Dunn, who works on Ninja High School, who is Antarctic Press. He works for Antarctic Press. He was involved with the Marvel Mangaverse, as were some webcomics creators. Again, this was different. We had American artists working in the manga style, and back then there was a lot of quote-unquote manga, like American-made manga from Tokyo Pop. It wasn't actually what I would call manga. It was just kind of all the manga tropes. We've got giant robot Iron Man, But, you know, it lasted for a couple of years. I don't remember reading a whole lot of it. I mean, some of it was pretty good. Some of it was pretty decent, but it wasn't really what I would call manga per se. But this looks to be legit manga by legit Japanese manga creators, and they've actually got some pretty heavy hitters. Yu-Gi-Oh creator Kazuki Takahashi is going to be doing it. Now, overseeing it is going to be CB Cebulski. Yeah, so this is really interesting, and this actually kind of explains why he's at Marvel right now. They said the announcement confirmed a slew of Shonen Jump editors are working on the collaboration alongside CB Cebulski, the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. CB Cebulski was brought in to basically, I think, phase out the old Marvel Comics, the old business model, and transition into something new. Now, it got derailed because of the whole kerfuffle about his Japanese pen name. But the reason he used that Japanese pen name was he worked extensively overseas. He worked in Asia. When they brought him in, when they hired him initially, they said his focus was going to be on getting Marvel characters into overseas markets in a bigger way. So I think, you know, I don't know if this was always the plan, but I think with the success of series like My Hero Academia, you know, there might be a renewed interest in American-style superheroes overseas now, and the time is right. And frankly, with the comic book, the American comic book market dying like it is right now, you know, Marvel's got to make some money somewhere. They're certainly not making it off the American comics. They have hits every once in a while, but they're not making money, and we talk about that. It's very much, the direct market is very much a dead horse that's being beaten. So, you know, Disney is going to look for more money. Obviously, Disney wants margins. They want lots of money. And right now, manga is making lots of money. Not as much as it was, but it's still doing significantly better than American comics. And this is the next wave. We've talked about this before. You know, kids today, maybe they're not reading superhero comics, but they sure as hell are reading manga. My kids read manga. They read, you know, my daughter especially loves My Hero Academia. She reads graphic novels, or like manga-style graphic novels. She loves comics. She loves drawing. She loves art. She loves anime. She loves anime. She's not reading American superhero comics. If you want to reach kids today with comics, you're probably going to do it through graphic novels or manga. And I think Disney, Marvel, on some level, know that. It is possible that this is a plan B if they ever decide to just stop making new superhero comics, which is totally possible. Again, Disney, you know, the margins have to be there. They shut companies down when they're not profitable enough. They restructure all the time. And there really is no legitimate business need for Marvel Comics to even exist anymore. But if they're going to move manga, Spider-Man manga or whatever, yeah, they'd be all about it. Absolutely. So let's just put this out here. The sales, right? So we talk about American comics, and we've talked about this before. I'll put a link to some of the other videos talking about the American comic book market versus manga. The numbers that we talk about as being successful here in America are paltry. They're not even worth mentioning in Japan. Even the best-selling comics here are nothing compared to a decent selling manga overseas. The highest selling single issue of a comic book, if I remember correctly, was Jim Lee's X-Men #1 from like 1991, 1992, whatever year it was. And it sold like 8 million copies. And that sounds good. That sounds really impressive. And there were like a bunch of printings of that. I mean, let's be honest, they had a whole bunch of covers and various versions of it and whatever. And that was during the speculator boom. In Japan, that wouldn't even register. And we're talking about a country that is a fraction of the size of the US. One Piece, since 97 to present, now we are talking about 93 volumes of One Piece, 454 million copies, approximately, have been sold of One Piece. Dragon Ball, somewhere between 250 and 300 million copies of Dragon Ball have been sold in Japan. I mean, this is insane. This is just insane numbers. And you look at the top selling graphic novels now on most booksellers list, and it's just completely being overtaken again with manga. You know, My Hero Academia is huge. Dragon Ball is huge. You know, Attack on Titan is huge. So many others. My Hero Academia especially. Marvel has to be looking at that and being like, well, they can sell superheroes. Why can't we sell superheroes? We're doing it wrong. So that's probably part of the reason that they're doing it. Now, there are no plans. There are no plans to bring them here yet, but I think it's coming. I absolutely think it's coming. Again, I think this is maybe part of what was going on behind the scenes with the Shonen Jump app, that eventually we will have like legit manga versions of Spider-Man, the X-Men, etc. over here on that app. And that would actually be pretty cool, as long as they're good. You know, as long as they're good. But yeah, here we have another article. Japanese manga artists take on Marvel. And, you know, it's only for a few months they're probably testing it out, but I would not be surprised if we saw these on the Shonen Jump app by Viz. That would be very, very cool if we did. I mean, it's not direct competition with the Marvel comics, and even if it is, I mean, IDW puts out Marvel comics, Marvel superhero comics that basically compete with Marvel's own Marvel comics. You know, so I don't think they care as long as they're getting the money. As long as Disney's getting the money, I don't think they care where the comics come from. So this is going to be very interesting to watch. I think we're seeing a paradigm shift again. I think we're seeing a shift from, you know, as the monthly floppy comics die, obviously graphic novels are going to become more and more important. Now, that's not to say there isn't a place for monthly comics, as long as the cost can be cut and that they're put in places where people can actually find them. But depending on people to spend $4 a pop to go to the comic shop to buy their comics, that's not going to work anymore. That's not going to work anymore. I think as far as single issues go, companies like Alterna have the right idea, where they're keeping their books under $2 and they're putting them in places where people normally don't buy comics. You know, putting them in anymore. They used to, but like convenience stores, etc., etc. But I think for the bigger chunks of story, I think manga is definitely where it's at. And I think Marvel is you know, finally starting to realize. And this is probably why CB Cebulski was brought in, was for this, because his experience by and large has been with overseas markets, and that's why they're keeping him around. That's why they're keeping him around. But I think there is a power struggle going on over there at Marvel. And I think some people were trying to get rid of him, but I think this was always the plan for CB Cebulski. So we're going to keep an eye on this. This is actually quasi-exciting. We'll see if these comics are any better than the comics that Marvel themselves are putting out. A little more excited about this than anything I've seen from Marvel, especially, you know, having a manga-style Spider-Man comic. That excites me more than having J.J. Abrams and his kid reboot Spider-Man. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.